ओम वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्ट्वागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। So namaste once again everyone.
Namaste Guruji.
Namaste.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram. So we will read the chant, the fifth mantra and also the bhashyam, and then we will discuss. Okay. All ready?
Yes, Guruji.
Tatra para rigvedah
Tatra para rigvedah
यजुर्वेदः सामवेदोऽर्थवे अथर्ववेदः
Yajurveda
सामवेदो
अथर्ववेदः
शिक्षा कल्पो व्याकरणम्
शिक्षाकल्पव्याकरणम्
निरुक्तं छन्दो ज्योतिषमिति
निरुक्तं छन्दो ज्योतिषमिति
अथ परायया तदक्षरम् अधिगम्यते नौ भाष्यम् ननु ऋग्वेदादिबाह्या तर्हि सा कथम् परा विद्या स्यात् मोक्ष साधनं च या वेद बाह्याः स्मृतयः याश्च काश्च कुदृष्टयः सर्वास्ता निष्फलाः प्रेत्यतमो निष्ठा हि ता स्मृताः मनुस्मृति. This is from Manusmriti. Iti hi smarati
स्मरन्ति
kudrishtitvad nishpalatvad anadeya syat Upanishadam cha
Upanishadam cha
Rigvedadi bahyatvam syat
Rigvedadi
Vedadi
Bhagyatvam
Bhagyatvam Syat
Rigvedaditve
Rigvedaditve
Rigvedaditve tu
Rigvedaditve tu
Pritakaranam anartakam
Pratakanam
Manantakam
Atapara iti.
Atapara iti.
Very good. Thank you all. So, in the last class, we discussed the contents of this mantra and also the bhashya of the mantra. And as we saw, this mantra enumerates from a Vedic standpoint what all topics are covered in Aparavidya and what is the subject matter of Paravidya. That is briefly stated. So it said Aparavidya consists of 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, and the subject matter of Paravidya is Aksharam Brahma. In fact, like we discussed, we can say every subject in the universe other than the subject of Aksharam Brahma comes under the definition of Aparavidya. And Bhashyakara's emphasis was these two Vidyas are being talked about because Aparavidya cannot deliver moksha, which only Paravidya can. So this mantra is not a very complicated mantra. It's a very straightforward mantra, simple and straightforward. But our dear friend, Mr. Purva Pakshi is not happy with the explanation. And therefore, he raises a doubt. Another objection. Earlier itself, he took one objection. Now another objection he takes. Nanu. He says Nanu. Nanu, as we know, means objection. Like, some students, if they have a question, they will raise their hands in the class. That is Nanu. It's a standalone word, does not form part of the sentence. So let me first explain the objection. It's a very interesting argument that the Purva Pakshi puts. The Purva Pakshi says that you have defined Aparavidya as consisting of Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, etc., the Vedangas, etc. This forms the definition of Vedas. And the mantra says, Atapara yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. And you have taken the meaning of para as Paravidya, which is said here as Aksharam Brahma or Akshara Vidya. So according to you, he is addressing the Bhashyakara. According to you, there are two types of Vidyas, Aparavidya and Paravidya. But the word para, which you have interpreted as Paravidya, has another meaning also. Para means beyond. That meaning is there. And therefore, if we take that meaning, Yaya para means that which is beyond Aparavidya. And therefore, if we take that meaning, it will mean that this Paravidya or Akshara Vidya that you are talking about is beyond Aparavidya and therefore beyond the Vedas. You all understand the argument? It's a beautiful argument. Because first, Aparavidya was defined as the content of the Vedas. Then he says, which is para, which is beyond this content of the Vedas, is Aparavidya, which is Paravidya or Akshara Brahma Vidya. So, if you take the meaning of para as beyond, that means this Paravidya is outside the Vedas. So, what the mantra says is that The Upanishad says, I have talked about the content of the Vedas as Aparavidya and defined the content specifically. And whatever I am now going to talk about is outside Aparavidya, that is outside the Vedas. See, such a very logical argument. It all depends upon how the meaning of para is taken. If you take para as higher, then Bhashyakara's interpretation as para vidya, higher vidya will hold good. But if you take the meaning of para as beyond, that means the Paravidya which Bhashyakara is talking about is not higher knowledge, but it is a knowledge which is beyond the Vedas, outside the Vedas. For example, after talking about, I'm giving you an example. Suppose there is a discussion and then there is a topic about customs of, say, North Indian people. And then I say, now I am going to talk about the customs of South Indian people. What does it mean? It means that there are two types of customs. The North Indian customs are different from South Indian customs. South Indian customs are outside the North Indian customs. Isn't it? That's what it will mean. So similarly, when I say that Aparavidya is in the form of Rig Veda, Yajurveda, etc., and then I say I will talk about Paravidya, it means Paravidya is outside Aparavidya. And therefore, Paravidya will have the status of Veda Bahitvam. Bahyatvam. Bahyatvam means outside the Vedas. And in our tradition, anything which is outside the Vedas is not considered to be valid. And therefore, any reference to moksha, etc., which is outside the purview of the Vedas, is not considered to be valid. Because it cannot be considered as apaurushaya vishaya. Vedas are apaurushaya vishaya, given by Bhagavan himself. Anything outside that is not considered valid. And therefore, the Purva Pakshi's objection and question is, how can you interpret the word para in the mantra as higher knowledge? In fact, Aparavidya, being the knowledge of the Vedas, is the highest knowledge. And there cannot be any other knowledge higher than that. And therefore, how can Paravidya be the means for moksha when it is outside the Vedas? Because the traditional view is that anything which is outside the Vedas cannot become the means for moksha. For moksha, the Vedas are pramanam. And therefore, this Purva Pakshi is telling, how can this Paravidya be moksha sadhanam? That is the essence of what Purva Pakshi is conveying through his objection. Okay. He says, Rig Vedadi Bahya. So here we have to supply Akshara Vidya, which is called Paravidya. So Akshara Vidya, the knowledge of Akshara Brahman, which is called Paravidya, which has been given the designation of Paravidya, is Rig Vedadi Bahya, means outside Rig Veda, etc. Here, etc. means Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, Vedangas, etc. So, Akshara Vidya being outside Rig Veda, etc., Tarhi, then, Sa, that Vidya, that is the Akshara Vidya which you are calling Paravidya, Katham Paravidya Syat, how can it be higher knowledge? Katham means how, Syat means would be, Paravidya means higher knowledge. So if Akshara Brahma, the knowledge of Akshara Brahma is outside the Rig Veda, etc., then how can it be called Paravidya? How can it be higher knowledge and also moksha sadhanam cha, he says? How can it be also the means for moksha? Because by saying Paravidya, what you meant was that this Vidya alone gives satisfaction. This Vidya alone gives tripti. This Vidya alone gives complete fulfillment in terms of knowing, in terms of solving the fundamental problem of samsara. And therefore, according to you, this Paravidya is supposed to give moksha. And therefore, the objection of the Purva Pakshi is, since this so-called Paravidya is outside the purview of the Vedas, and therefore it cannot be taken as valid for giving moksha. Now, Purva Pakshi says, it is not my just opinion. I will give you a pramana, the basis for my saying so, which he gives in the next sentence, where he quotes Manusmriti, where it is said that which is outside the Vedas, anything which is not within the purview of the Vedas, that is nishphala hai. It will not benefit the person. This is the traditional view. So the first sentence after Nanu is a Sangraha Vakya, the headlines, a brief statement. Now this is explained or elaborated further in the next sentence. So he says, Ya Veda Bahyaha Smritayaha, Yascha Kascha Kudrishtayaha, Sarvasta Nishphalaha Pretya, Tamo Nishtahi Taha Smritaha. This is Manusmriti 1295, 12th chapter, 95th shloka. Iti hi smaranti. So now he is explaining why this Vidya by which Akshara Tattvam is known and attained is not Paravidya. He says that it cannot be higher knowledge. It cannot be moksha sadhana. Why? So he is giving the Smriti basis, the Smriti Vakya from Manusmriti. As we all know, Manusmriti is one of the most famous Smriti Granthas and also very much controversial Smriti in Tamil Nadu, because all these so-called anti-Sanatanis, they keep quoting Manusmriti and saying that all this is all nonsense or whatever it is. And this Manusmriti says, Ya Veda Bahyaha Smritayaha. Smritaya means the work of various philosophers. As we know, Smriti Granthas, the hierarchy of our scriptures are Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa. Right? And the second, third, and fourth, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, and Itihasa, they have their basis in the Vedas only. So Vedas are the pramanam for whatever is contained in the Smriti Granthas, like even Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti, but it is based upon totally Upanishads. So that becomes valid. So and only Vedas or Shruti is Apaurisheya Vishaya. Smritis, Puranas and all are Paurisheya Vishaya. They are the works of various philosophers, various rishis, etc., human beings. And they have actually studied the Vedas. And because using their memory of whatever they have learned, they have written these Smriti Granthas. And as I said, this Smriti Grantha also have to conform with the teachings of the Vedas. If they do not, then the Smritis are Veda Bhahya, outside the Vedas. Means outside the subject matter of Vedas. Yascha Kascha Kudrishtaya. And whatever views are expressed, Kudrishtaya means false views. So whatever views are expressed in such granthas, on such scriptures, are false views. Ku means false. Drishtaya means view. So Kudrishtaya means false views. And whichever, Yascha Kascha means whichever. Whichever false views are there, Yascha Kascha Kudrishtaya hai, whichever false views are there, Sarva hai, all of them, Taha Nishfala hai, they are futile, they are useless in terms of getting Purushartha, especially Moksha Purushartha. Pretya means after death. So Sarvasta Nishfalaha Pretya means after death. Also, they are not going to give any result. After death also, they are not going to serve any purpose. Because they are smritas which are considered to be Veda Bhakya and therefore Tamonishta. Tamonishta means they are all based upon Tamo Guna. Not Sattva Guna. Vedas are all Sattva Guna. But such things which are, such scriptures which are outside the Vedas are Tamo Nishta, based upon ignorance. Here Tamaha means not Tamo Guna. Tamo Guna represents ignorance, avidya. Itihi, in this manner, smaranti, people think. Who are those people? They are traditional people. People who actually are from the parampara. They think in this manner. And the traditional thinking is presented in this Manusmriti Vakya. So the idea is that we have got various forms of scriptures. As I just now said, Shruti Moola is Moola Grantha, fundamental text or original text. And then Smriti Granthas are there, composed by various human beings, knowledgeable people, philosophers, learned people. As Smriti Granthas like Manusmriti, Yagyamalka Smriti, as I said, even Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti Grantha. So any Smriti Grantha will be considered valid only if it is in conformity with the teaching of the Vedas. And therefore here, Purva Pakshi is doing, what Purva Pakshi is doing is grossly assuming that they are outside the Vedas and anything which is outside he considers is not in conformity and therefore it should not be valid. It cannot give the result of moksha. That is the sum and substance of Purva Pakshi's argument. It is like, the Charvaka philosophers. They say that for them only Pratyaksha alone is valid. He says there is nothing called, they say there is nothing called Punya Papas. So Charvakas are called Kudrishtaya. So they follow the philosophies, hedonistic precepts like eat, drink, make merry. That alone is their philosophy of life. They don't believe in Atma. And they say, if at all there is something called Atma, it is the body only. There is nothing, called consciousness and all that. So they say you are born to enjoy all the material things in this world. Enjoy them. Keep progressing. Get more and more money. Indulge in Vishaya Bhoga. Make your life a very happy life. That type of thinking is called Kudrishtaya. And such thinking from a Vedic standpoint will not yield any result now or even after death. It will not lead to any higher loka and certainly not moksha sadhana. So similarly, Paravidya also we will consider to be nishpala, futile, useless because it is outside the Vedas. As they do not form part of the four Vedas or Vedangas. And therefore he says in the next line, Kudrishtitvad, Nishpalatvad, Anadeya Syat. Adeya means acceptable, Anadeya means unacceptable. Syat is we see would be. Therefore, Paravidya, because of it being a wrong view and useless, futile, it will be unacceptable. This is one argument of the Purva Pakshi. Now, the Purva Pakshi gives a second argument also. He says, Upanishadam cha Rigvedadi Bhakyatvam Syat. Rigvedaditve tu Pritakaranam Anartakam Athapara iti. So he says, that the distinction or the division between Paravidya and Aparavidya, which you have made, is not correct. He says not only this knowledge about Aksharam will be unacceptable based on the division you have made, but also Upanishad, which is considered to be the last portion of the Veda, Vedanta, also will be proved to be outside the Vedas, which is not a fact. So, Upanishad, which is a means of knowledge, also will be rendered outside the Rig Vedadi. That is Yajurveda, Samaveda, etc. So, by your definition, by your separating this Paravidya, etc., Upanishad will also fall outside the Aparavidya or the Vedas. And because Upanishads are talking about Brahmavidya, the Brahmavidya will also be outside Rigveda, etc. And therefore, by this division you have made, Upanishad, the text which is talking about Brahmavidya, will also be outside the Vedas. And if you say it is not outside the Vedas, then the division you have made is useless. It serves no purpose. So, in other words, if you consider Upanishad, which is talking about Brahma Vidya, is part of the Vedas, Rig Veda, etc. On the one hand, you accept that. Then how can you say that Upanishad and Brahma Vidya are different from this Rig Veda, etc., which you define as Apara Vidya? So therefore, he says, either way, Bhashyakara, you will be in trouble. If you say that Brahma Vidya and the text Upanishad are different from Vedas, then they will be unacceptable because anything which is outside the Vedas is unacceptable. And if you say, no, they are not outside the Vedas, they are part of the Vedas, then the division which you have made as Paravidya, Aparavidya, etc. is meaningless. Why you are making such divisions? It is not something like saying Pakistan is a part of Tamil Nadu and Tamil Nadu is a part of India, but Pakistan is different from India. How funny it will be. How absurd it would be if you think over it. And that is what Purva Pakshi is saying. Upanishadam cha means and the Upanishads. Rigvedadi Bahyatvam Syat means would be having the status of being Bahya outside. Outside what? Rigveda, etc. So the Upanishad text will have the status of being outside Rigveda, etc. And therefore not valid. Because the traditional view is stated in the Manusmriti, which is whatever is outside the Vedas are invalid because of being Kudrishtaya, false views. And they are useless in terms of getting Purushartha, especially Moksha Purushartha. So after death also, they are not going to serve any purpose. Moreover, if you say that the Upanishads are outside the Vedas, then their status of being Vedanta also will go away. As we know, Vedanta means the end portion of the Vedas. It should be part of Vedas. But according to this division, Upanishads will fall outside the Vedas, and that contradiction will also happen. Then Rig Vedaditve tu. Tu means on the other hand. Second argument. If you say Upanishads are Rig Vedatitve, considered to be part of Rig Veda, etc., then Prithakkaranam, the separation. What kind of separation? Atha para iti. The Purva Pakshi quotes from the mantra itself. Atha para is there in the mantra. Atha means now, indicates differentiation, separation. So differentiation from Rig Veda, etc. Para refers to para vidya. Therefore, if you say Upanishads are considered to be part of Rig Veda, etc., it would be anarthakam, meaningless. We will supply syat, anarthakam syat, would be meaningless. So either way, Bhashyakara, you are in trouble. Very interesting objection by Purva Pakshi. So to sum up, the Purva Pakshi raises two objections. If Bhashyakara says that Upanishads, which means Brahma Vidya, are different from Vedas, then they will be unacceptable from a traditional point of view, as stated in Manusmriti. On the contrary, if you say that they are part of the Vedas, then the division of Paravidya, Aparavidya, which you have made, will be meaningless, superficial, serving no purpose. So the Purva Pakshi is very elated. He thinks that it's a checkmate, check and mate, like he has cornered Bhashyakara. Bhashyakara will not have any answer. Either way, he can't make any move. That is what Purva Pakshi thinks. Now Bhashyakara replies, he clarifies. And we will read. Okay. Na. What happened? Everybody's got
Ma
Vedya Vishaya Vijnanasya
विषय विज्ञानस्य
Vivakshitatvat
विवक्षितत्वात्
Upanishad Vedyakshara Vishayam
विषयम्
Upanishad Vedyaksharam Vishayam Hi
उपनिषद् वेद्याक्षरं विषयं हि
Vedyakshara Vishayam Hi
वेद्याक्षरविषयं हि
Vijnanamiha
विज्ञानमिह
Paravidya iti
पराविद्या इति
Pradanyena Vivakshitam
प्राधान्येन विवक्षितम्
Na Upanishad Shabdah Rashihi
उपनिषत् शब्दः राशिः
Veda Shabdena tu
वेदशब्देन तु
Sarvatra Shabda Rasihi Vivakshitaha
सर्वत्र
शब्दनाशिः
विवक्षितः
विवक्षितः
शब्दराश्यधिगमेऽपि
शब्दराशि अधिगमेऽपि
यत् यत्नान्तरमन्तरेण
यत्नान्तरेण
गुर्वभिगमनादि लक्षणम्
गमनादिलक्षणम्
गुर्वभिगमनादि लक्षणम्
गुर्वधिगमनादिलक्षणम्
वैराग्यं च
वैराग्यं च
नाक्षरादिगमः
नाक्षरादिगमः
संभवति इति
सम्भवति
भवति
इति
पृथक्करणम्
पृथक्करणम्
ब्रह्मविद्यायाः
ब्रह्मविद्यायाः
पराविद्या इति
पराविद्या इति
कथनं च इति
कथनम् चेति
So now, very interesting reply Bhashyakara gives. Somewhat technical. So even though the Siddhanta, in this case the Bhashyakara, because Purva Pakshi and Siddhanta, two opposite parties, right? Siddhanti, rather, right? So the Siddhanti, who is in this case the Bhashyakara, seems to be trapped. He says that we always have some ways to come out of such problems. And that is the beauty of this Advaita Vedanta Acharyas. Buddhism is the most difficult question because they are so well read in Nyaya Shastra, everything, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, everything. They will come up with an argument, with a reply, which will be very logical and convincing. So here Bhashyakara is telling, I'll briefly tell what Bhashyakara's approach is. He says, hey Purva Pakshi, you are only looking at two options, this way or that way. But I have a third way where the problems highlighted by in the first way and the second way quoted by you does not exist. So he says, your vision is limited, you are short-sighted. You are not considering all the possibilities. So he starts by saying, na. Na means no, literally means no. But it is a very loaded no. We will see how this na is to be understood. Purva Pakshi has said, Paravidya kudrishtitvat nishphalatvat anadeya syat. Because of being a wrong view, it is useless, futile, it will be unacceptable. So first Bhashyakara wants to refute what the Purva Pakshi has said by first saying na. Na means your objection is not valid. Therefore, what is implied is that this Paravidya, first of all, it is not Avedika. It is not outside the Vedas. We accept Paravidya forms the subject matter of Vedas. Therefore, it is not Anadeya, unacceptable. One by one, he deals with the points. So now, if that is so, how the question would be, then why did you separate Paravidya and Aparavidya? You should not have separated. To that, Bhashyakara gives the answer. He says, Vedya Vishaya Vijnanasya Vivakshitvat. Vedya means to be known. Vishaya means the subject matter. Vijnanam means knowledge. Vivakshitvat means intended. Therefore, the expression paravidya is to show that what is intended is the knowledge of the subject matter to be known. So paravidya is not something, different. The word paravidya means that it is the paravidya, knowledge of a subject matter, the vishaya, which is intended to be known. Vivakshitvat. And he further elaborates. Upanishad Vedyakshara Vishayam hi Vigyanam Iha Paravidya iti Pradhanyena Vivakshitam Na Upanishad Shabda Rashihi. Now he makes a very beautiful distinction. Shabda Rashihi means group of words. When we say Veda, what we generally mean is the words of Veda. For example, when the person says, I am learning Vedas, generally what it means I am learning the words of the Vedas, the mantras of the Vedas. If someone says, I am attending Veda classes, it means he is learning to chant the Veda mantras. And that is what is what taught generally in the Patashalas. The words of the Vedas. And therefore, generally the word Veda is used in the sense of the words of the Vedas. So when a person says, I know Rig Veda, I know Yajur Veda, etc., generally it means he has the knowledge of the words of the Vedas. And here, by this Paravidya, what is meant is not the words of the Upanishad, which no doubt is part of the Vedas only. But what is meant by Paravidya is the knowledge of the meaning of the words Upanishad. So here the words of Upanishad are not implied by the word Paravidya. What is implied is, or what is meant here is the meaning, the knowledge of the meaning of the Upanishads. So if you say, I study Upanishad and I have got Paravidya, what it will mean? It will mean I have understood the meanings of the words of the Upanishad. I have understood the knowledge given by this Upanishad. I have the knowledge of the meanings of this Upanishad, mantras of Mundaka Upanishad, through studying the Bhashyam, and that is what is Paravidya. And that means I have understood Brahma and I am Brahman. Understood Brahman, that I am Brahman. That knowledge I have got. So here, by the word Paravidya, the knowledge of the Upanishad is meant. And when we say Veda, only knowledge of the words is meant. And therefore, the distinction is made. When we say Aparavidya, it means the knowledge of the Veda mantra, that is Veda Purva Bhagas. And when we say Paravidya, what we are meaning is the knowledge of the message of the Upanishad mantras. And Upanishad alone gives Brahma Vidya. And therefore, Brahma Vidya also is within Vedas only. However, since Vedas generally refer to Shabda Rashi, whereas by Paravidya, what is meant is Vijnanam, the knowledge. And to show this distinction, this division is made. So even if somebody has memorized the text of all Upanishads, We cannot say he has got Paravidya. Even if he has got the knowledge of the grammatical derivation of each word of the Upanishad, still this person has not attained Paravidya. Getting the vision conveyed by the words is considered to be Paravidya. And that is what Bhashyakara says. In fact, I am reminded of a very nice anecdote of Swami Chinmayananda. A person came, a devotee of Swamiji, long-standing devotee. He came and he was boasting to Swamiji, Swamiji, I have gone through all the 10 Upanishads. I have gone through Bhagavad Gita. Everything I have gone through. So Swami Chinmayananda ji smiled. He says, it's very good. You have gone through all the 10 principal Upanishads and also Bhagavad Gita. But please tell me how many Upanishads have gone through you? You have gone through all right. But how many Upanishads have gone through you? That means how many Upanishads have you actually understood? What is the message of that? How much, what knowledge you have gained by going through all these Upanishads? So mere going through or merely saying I have memorized all the mantras, it's all not Paravidya. And therefore he says, Upanishad Vedya Akshara Vishayam Hi Vigyanam Iti Iha Paravidya Iti Pradhanyena Vivakshitam. So Upanishad, by the word Upanishad, Vedya means what is to be known is Akshara Vishayam, the subject matter of Aksharam Brahma. He, because Iha Paravidya, we have to supply Shabdena. So Iha Paravidya Shabdena, here by the word Paravidya, Vigyanam or knowledge of Akshara Vishayam, which is the subject matter to be understood for moksha. Iti pradhanyena. Pradhanyena means primarily vivakshitam is intended to be conveyed. Na Upanishad Shabda Rashihi. Not merely the knowledge of the words of the Upanishad. Therefore, here by the word Paravidya, what is primarily intended to be conveyed is the knowledge of Akshara Tattvam, which is the subject matter to be understood for moksha. Because the purpose of Upanishad is to convey the knowledge regarding the subject matter, which is Aksharam Brahma, not merely the knowledge of the words of the Upanishad. And therefore, Paravidya is distinct from Aparavidya. And therefore, the distinction is valid and useful. So, both the objections raised by Purva Pakshi is answered. One is Paravidya is not outside the Vedas. Paravidya, which is the Vidya contained in the Upanishad, is very much within the Vedas. And second thing is, the differentiation with Aparavidya and Paravidya is made to convey the meaning that the knowledge of the Aparavidya is distinct from the knowledge of the Paravidya. If you understand it in this angle, with this kind of a background interpretation, there is no contradiction. So, both the objection, Hey Purva Pakshi, which you have raised, should be understood or should be answered in this manner. And then Bhashyakara goes ahead and elaborates what is the on this sentence, which he has said. The distinction is valid between, so pradhanyena vivakshitam. That sentence he is now elaborating that. शब्दराशि अधिगमे अपि यत्नान्तरम् अंतरेण गुरु अभिगमनादि लक्षणं वैराग्यं च न अक्षरधिगमः संभवति इति पृथक्करणं ब्रह्मविद्यायाः पराविद्या इति कथनं च इति. So here he is continuing the argument, clarifying further. Here he highlights the fact that Shabda Rashi Adhigame Api. Adhigame means gaining the knowledge. We have to supply the word Upanishad. So even after gaining the knowledge of the words of the Upanishad, Yatnantaram Antarena. Antarena means without. Yatnantaram means additional effort. Guru Abhigamanadi Lakshanam, in the form of approaching the teacher appropriately. We have already seen what is approaching the teacher appropriately means. Yatnantaram goes with Guru Abhigamanadi Lakshana. Should be read together. Guru Abhigamanadi Lakshanam Vairagyam Cha. That should, Yatnantaram should go along with that. So, without additional effort of approaching a teacher and gaining sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, of which vairagyam is one of the most important element, aspect. Na aksharam adhigama sambhavati. The knowledge of Akshara Brahma does not take place. So merely by gaining knowledge of the words of the Upanishad is not enough. That is necessary, no doubt. Even after gaining the knowledge of the Upanishad, without additional effort in the form of approaching the teacher appropriately, and without having Vairagyam, the knowledge of Akshara Tattvam, which leads to moksha, does not take place. Iti pratakkaranam Brahma Vidyayaha. And therefore, the distinction is made for Brahma Vidya, which is Paravidya iti katanam cha iti, which is called Paravidya. And it also is elevated to the status of Paravidya, higher knowledge. So Bhashyakara thus answers all the objections raised by the Purva Pakshi and justifies the distinction made by the Upanishad between Aparavidya and Paravidya. Now, the next mantra is talking about that Akshara Tattvam, Brahma Tattvam, knowledge of which is called Paravidya. So we will see that, read that mantra since we have got some time. 1 second, give me a minute. So we will now go to the mantra number 6. And here Bhashyakara gives a Sangati, introduction to the next mantra. So we will read the Sangati. Yatha vidhi vishaye
यथा
विधि विषये
कर्त्राध्यनेक कारकोपसंहार द्वारेण
कारकोपसंहारद्वारेण
You made it too long.
very long for
Sorry.
I know, I will split it, don't worry. Kartradi
कर्त्रादि
Aneka
अनेक
Karaka Upasamhara
कारक उपसंहार
Dvarena
द्वारेण
Vakyartha Jnana
वाक्यार्थज्ञान
Kaladhanyatra
कालादन्यत्र
अनुष्ठेयः
अनुष्ठेयः
अर्थो अस्ति
अर्थो अस्ति
अग्निहोत्रादिलक्षणः
अग्निहोत्रादिलक्षणः
न ततेह परा विद्या विषये
न तथाहिह पराविद्याविषये
वाक्यार्थज्ञान समकाले एव तु
समकाले एव
पर्यवसितो भवति
पर्यवसितो भवति
केवल शब्द
केवलशब्द
प्रकाशितार्थम प्रकाशितार्थ ज्ञानमात्र निष्ठा व्यतिरिक्ता भावात् तस्मात् इह परां विद्यां सविशेषणेन अक्षरेण विशिनष्टि यत्तददेश अदृश्यम् इत्यादिना very good introduction. And here Bhashyakara very brilliantly, while giving this Sangati to this mantra, next mantra, he is answering a possible doubt which can be raised based on the Bhashyam of the last mantra. Because it was said that Veda Shabda Jnana, the knowledge of the words of Veda is Aparavidya, which people get in the Patashala or in the chanting classes, etc. And by Paravidya, the knowledge of the subject matter of the Veda, especially Vedanta, is meant. So by Aparavidya, knowledge of the words of Veda Purva Bhaga is meant. And by Paravidya, knowledge of the Veda Anta Bhaga is meant. Now, the Purva Pakshi may ask a question. Even though he has not asked, but Bhashyakara is assuming that this fellow is waiting to ask some question, so this question will come up. So he said, before he asks, I will answer the question. Because Purva Pakshi will say, okay, fine. I will accept that the knowledge of the words of Vedas is Aparavidya, and also that Veda Purva Bhaga, which is Karma Kanda, imparts the knowledge of the words of the Vedas. This portion talks about various karmas or rituals to be done, and the mantras that are required to be chanted while doing those rituals. But one cannot do the rituals by merely learning the words. One has to learn the meaning of the words. Then only one can meaningfully perform the rituals. If a person does not know the meaning, he invites the person who knows the meaning, that is the priest, like what we all do, to preside over the rituals and explain the methodology of performing the rituals and provide guidance. And many times the priest himself will explain the meaning of the mantras also, so that the karta does the ritual knowing its meaning. And therefore, the Veda Purva Bhaga Artha Jnanam is very much necessary. So, Paravidya is Vedanta Artha Jnanam and Aparavidya is Karmakanda Artha Jnanam. Knowledge of the meaning of the first portion of the Vedas. Oh, it's time now. We'll continue in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ
very
ಗುರುಜಿ.
much.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
Dhanyavadah. Thank you.
Hari Om Guruji. Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಗುರುಜಿ.
Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಗುರುಜಿ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Now while reading it, certain words you are able to understand the sloka.
Slowly, that is why Bhashyam study is very useful.
Yeah.
Get familiar with lot of words, and then you you see the same word repeated, and then you understand the meaning. Then later on, when it comes, you know, oh, this is what it means. A very good way to inspire you to learn Sanskrit.
No, the Sanskrit is the homework is too tedious to attempt to do that. Unless you practice, it doesn't happen.
The thing is like this. Upanishad study with Bhashyam is a test of tenacity of the students. How many students still survive at the end, we will see. Already, we are seeing that some students who have registered are not attending regularly. Of course, I have not taken any steps on that, as it doesn't matter. If they attend, let them attend. If they don't attend, let them not attend. It is their own Shraddha, their devotion, their faith. Not towards me, towards the Shastra. But as I told, even in Gurukulam, 60 students joined, 1/3 were vanished by the end of that time. So this will happen. Upanishad class, only who are completely tuned. It doesn't matter. You don't know Sanskrit or doesn't matter. The teacher will explain every word. In fact, more than once he will repeat the explanation. So that even if you have missed it once, second time you hear, you will get this meaning. But then it is your tenacity will be tested rather. We'll have just 22, 23 classes. We have to go long way.
It's a tough going and a long journey.
It's a tough going, it's a long journey.
Namaste, Guru.
That students will, continue the journey. That I am very sure, because that is, they have to be extraordinarily blessed by Bhagavan to continue this and get to the end. Once one Upanishad is done, then all other Upanishads become much more simple. That is how the process is. And that is why I deliberately took up not the Moolam. Moolam is very easy. You can just go on explaining. But the real meat is there in the Bhashya. Because thinking, very critical thinking Bhashyam gives you. How Adi Shankaracharya, he actually manages very tricky situations. And these are all not something like, just like that you have said, no. Well, again, it is subject to challenge. Whatever interpretation is subject to challenge, and people will challenge. So then when you read that, is there only two possibilities? Is there a third possibility which the Purva Pakshi has actually, in our mind, we will never even think of all that. But then when we read the Bhashya, we know, oh, there is a third possibility. Because words like Veda, Upanishad and all, it can convey different meanings to different people. So all these things we get enriched by...
Guruji, I also had that doubt. Namaste, Guruji. I also had the doubt that in the sense, for the Apara Vidya, according to the previous shloka, it encompasses the Chaturveda and the Shatangas, or 6 Angas. So if all that comes as Apara Vidya, then where does the Paravidya come? That was the question that came to my mind last time. And that I think is answered this time, Guruji. But then in that previous shloka, there's nothing says there's no sentence or there's no line which says what exactly is Paravidya. It's
That will all
only
come now.
defining only what Aparavidya is. So
Yes.
the Purapakshi asked me
No,
that.
Paravidya is also tad aksharam adhigamyate is told. Only one word is for Paravidya. Ata para tad aksharam adhigamyate. It is said in the previous mantra. Correct.
Yes,
So,
Guruji.
Aparavidya is told Rigvedadi, etc. and all these things. But what is Paravidya in the last quarter? It says tad aksharam adhigamyate. Right? So that is called, the Paravidya is Akshara Vidya. That's all. And it doesn't even use the word Vidya.
Ah.
Ata para it says, and that is where the Purva Pakshi's objection is. Where is it said that it is Para Vidya? It is only said Para. Para means beyond. So why are you taking Para means Para Vidya? So what the Upanishad according to Purva Pakshi says is, this is Apara Vidya, Veda Purva Bhaga, Karma Kanda, Rig Vedadi and Vedangas. And outside that, beyond that is this Para, which is Akshara.
Okay.
Which is the Brahman, right? Akshara Brahman. So, Urupakshi corners Bhashyakara from both the sides. He says, if you say Paravidya
Yes,
is
I thought it's quite justified in that.
It's quite justified. A very brilliant argument of the Purva Pakshi. Very brilliant. But then, Bhashyakara's answer also is tackling that argument that you have misunderstood what is meant.
A lot of play of words.
There is not merely the words. It is meant the knowledge. So, when it comes to knowledge of the Veda Purva Bhaga and knowledge of the Veda Anta Bhaga, these are two different subject matters. So, distinction is valid. Even though both are part of the same Veda only.
But in the shloka, Vedanta Bhaga bolke mention nahi kiya hai. Not mentioned.
It will all come. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't say Veda Anta Bhaga, he says Upanishad. The word Upanishad denotes Veda Anta Bhaga only, because what is Vedanta? Is all Upanishad is only Vedanta.
But that Upanishad word also is not there in that shloka.
Shloka is not there, but Bhashyakara is explaining.
Is explaining now, yeah.
The Bhashyam is there. Because it is this Upanishad itself is talking all these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who is doing the talking? The Upanishad is doing the talk. Upanishad is the Vakta here.
Yes.
Isn't it? So right from the beginning, it is explaining this happened, Brahmaji was there, then this fellow came, he came. All that who is telling, Upanishad itself is telling. That is the sutra, what they call the sutradhari or whatever they call it, who narrates the story.
Yeah.
So Bhashyakara says, by this you have to understand in this manner.
Right.
That is what he says.
So there is one more, thank you very much, Guruji. There is one more small doubt. It's not related to the Upanishad. That's about the shloka, about the limbs of the chandas. The limbs of the angas, the 6 angas and how they form the different limbs. In that shloka, at the end it says, you study the Vedas according to these angas. One who studies the Vedas according to angas, he'll Brahmaloka praptate. So just by that, how will Brahmaloka, one will get Brahmaloka?
Yeah, because study of Angas is necessary for understanding the meaning of the Veda Purva Bhaga. Then once you understand the meaning of the Veda Purva Bhaga mantras, then you have to perform the rituals.
That paves the way to the Paravidya. That paves the way towards the Paravidya.
That paves the way. And that, no, forget Paravidya. Suppose you don't go to Upanishads at all. By performing the rituals, you are getting 3 Purusharthas fulfilled. Artha, Kama and Dharma.
Yes,
so, Artha, Kama, all your materialistic desires are fulfilled by performing those rituals. Correct? Then by performing all that is told about Dharma, you get Punya. When you get Punya, you go to Brahmaloka. Loka.
So Brahmaloka means that one, not
Yeah,
Brahman.
so what, see, that is why Veda Purva Bhaga, if somebody studies and earns enough punyam, he has done so much dharma, right? Earns enough punyam. Then what happens? He doesn't come to Upanishad. Question is, then will he not get moksha? Veda says, no, he will get moksha, but what will happen is not direct moksha in this janma. He will go to Brahmaloka, and then in Brahmaloka, he will learn from Brahmaji himself, and then he will get moksha. So it is not direct, it's an indirect moksha. There is an intermediary step by going to Brahmaloka.
Mm.
So Veda Purva Bhaga is not useless. It's not, studying Veda Purva Bhaga is not going to be, futile.
Mm.
That is what that says, that Brahmaloka, even, all lokas, forget Brahmaloka, there's 7 upper lokas, or 6 rather, including Bhuloka is one. Bhu hai, Supa hai, Maya hai, Jana hai, Tapa hai, then Satya. All these lokas, any of the slokas you can go. All gradation is there. So depending upon how much punyam you have done, you can go and enjoy your life there instead of having a miserable. But like Bhagavad Gita says, eventually when the punyam gets exhausted, you have to come back to this earth only. And therefore Krishna says, Arjuna, don't waste your time in all these things, earning punya and all. Right? Right away go for Upanishad, learn the meanings, abide in that, and then you get what you are going to get after maybe so many other births. So you will get it now itself. That is what is the whole.
That's what the meaning of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Namaste. Thank you.
Yes, Anup.
Guruji, just a very minor doubt actually, or my understanding. Paravidya is means the knowledge of Aksharam Brahma, which is not the words of the Vedas. So, does Aparavidya means only the words of the Vedas?
No.
Ah.
Vidya also means knowledge of the Veda Purva Bhaga mantras. Paravidya means knowledge of the Veda Anta Bhaga mantras. So the distinction he says is valid. Understand? Though both are same.
Okay. But different parts.
They different purpose and different ideas are conveyed. So that way, both are one Veda but different subjects. So the distinction is valid. That's what he says.
Thank you, Guru.
Are you? Yes, Sulekha ji. Sulekha ji.
Sorry, Namaste Guruji. Just trying to get my speaker on. Thank you for today's class. Also, I had a small clarification of today's class. Apara Vidya is the recitation, so not understanding the meaning of the words, but reciting the meaning or the mantras, reciting the mantras themselves without knowledge of actually what it means. And Paravidya is not only being able to know the words themselves or the mantras, but to be able to understand that knowledge and abide in that knowledge. Is that correct?
That is the one part is correct, that Aparavidya is merely learning to chant the mantras, is what Purva Pakshi's understanding by the word Aparavidya is. If that is the case, the term Vidya in Aparavidya will be meaningless. Isn't it? So Bhashyakara is clarifying Aparavidya is not what you have understood, just mere chanting. But knowledge of the Veda mantras which are there in the Purva Bhaga is what is called Aparavidya. Understand? Are you with me? I think she has gone mute again.
Yeah, I think she has muted. And
yeah.
Yes, I understand. I'm trying to
So what
unmute.
Bhashikara says that your understanding of Apara Vidya as understanding just merely chanting the Veda mantras is not a correct understanding. The correct understanding is the Apara Vidya, knowledge of the meaning of the words of the Veda, which is the Karma Kanda portion, Purva Bhaga portion. Paravidya means knowledge of the meaning of the words of the Upanishads in the Veda Anta portion. And these are two different types of knowledges. These are two different type of knowledges giving different types of results. Because Apara Vidya will give you the result in the form of three Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha and Kama. Whereas Paravidya knowledge will give you the fourth Purushartha, Moksha. So Purva Pakshi is confused about this. So Bhashyakara is clarifying that these are two different subject matter, two different types of knowledges. And therefore, the distinction made is by the Upanishad is correct. He says you are jumping into the conclusion without hearing the full Upanishad. It has only introduced two words, Apara and Para. Here itself you are starting your objection, isn't it? That's what happens many times rather. Because whenever we are hearing, one of the problem is many times people don't hear properly. When they are hearing, their mind is working on how I can counter this. So you don't hear properly what is said. That's a human tendency. That. So here Bhashyakara says, first read fully all the entire Upanishad. You will know what it is. But here itself, let me clarify that what you are saying, Purva Pakshi, is not correct, not valid. This is the explanation. Did you now understand?
Yes, thank you, Guruji. Actually, in your explanation, in your clarification, you've given two responses. You've given the very nuanced responses of what is being said in the Bhashyam, which is very much appreciated. But you're also giving a response, I think, as to don't be hasty in the judgment of what is being said. Think about it first, listen to it carefully, maybe having to listen to it many times over and over again, because it's a very nuanced kind of information. And actually, information is probably not even the right word, because
knowledge.
The knowledge itself, when knowledge turns into wisdom, that's also an alchemy that happens, because knowledge is one thing and the wisdom to understand the difference between information and knowledge is another thing itself. So here it's also, I think, a very good explanation of even the difference between knowledge and information.
Or information or just learning to chant the mantras, isn't it?
Yes, it reminds me.
You know, that's what happens when we say I am attending Upanishad class. The other person, what he can understand, he can understand two things in two ways. One is, I am attending a class where a teacher is teaching me to chant the Upanishad mantras. That is one. That is also say I am attending Upanishad class. I am learning Upanishads. Say I am learning Upanishads, it can mean that is one meaning you can take. The other meaning is I am learning Upanishad means I am learning the content, the knowledge which is there in the Upanishad. So two possibilities are there.
Yeah.
So here Bhashyakara says, by Vidya we are not meaning Shabda Rashi. Shabda Rashi means a collection of words. You are learning those words. That's all. You don't know what it means. That is not meant. That's what Bhashyakara is clarifying. And it's a very valid clarification, because our own thinking becomes refined. Then what do we mean by many things that we speak?
Yes.
So that is what it is.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful opportunity to really hear this and to learn, but also to try and reflect on it. I think this week will be the homework will be to reflect quite a bit. And again, this idea has come up in my mind recently about knowledge, wisdom, and nuances. So I think that will also be in the contemplation for this week.
yeah.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. Thank you all. So we'll close the class. See you next Monday. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.